This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather. Ho, there's Chef Cutter Dad, and welcome you to another sports catastrophe birthday boy. Today is May the 20th. Unfortunately, there is no on this day. But anyhow, there's a birthday boy. And the birthday boy today is a former Blue Jays pitcher who also played for the Yankees and for 7 other teams. Are you crazy? He has played for 9 teams. I never would have guessed. Anyway, his nickname is Boomer. Before the whole Boomer thing craze, he made 3 All-Star games and pitched a perfect game in 1998. He was in the postseason as a member of 6 teams, tying him with Kenny Lofton and winning 2 World Series titles. He is 59 and he is not so fine. It's David Wells. David Wells had an interesting life. His mother was actually a biker and all that. He didn't know about his father. He thought his father was dead, but he learned that his father was alive and wanted to start a relationship with him. Wells was very dependent on his mother, who had to work several jobs to support him and his 4 siblings. He was a decent pitcher and all that. The Blue Jays took him in the draft and decided to pick him up. The funny thing is, he returned later to Toronto, but he was a Toronto Blue Jay to start his career. He was a reliever first in 1987. He wasn't a full-time starter until he was 30 years old, and that was in 1993. That was after he left Toronto. David Wells would spend 6 seasons as a reliever with the Jays, completing a 47-46 mark with a 3.88 ERA. However, Wells was a member of the 92 World Series winning team. So he got a World Series ring as a Blue Jay, which was shocking to a lot of people. I mean, David Wells was just amazing. I have his card with the Blue Jays. Anyway, he was released by the Blue Jays during spring training, March of 1993. Toronto had a big issue with the 92 World Series team. Many players left, and people like David Wells and Derek Bell were just released because of bad behavior. Anyway, David Wells would find true happiness as released by the Toronto Blue Jays to Detroit. So he went to Detroit, became a starter, which he really wanted to be, and would make 32 appearances with an 11-9 mark and a 4.19 ERA. He stayed with Detroit during the 94 season and was cut short by a strike. He was only 5-7, so he didn't look that good. However, he was a top flight pitcher in 95. Before the All-Star break, he was 10-3. The Tigers sucked, but Wells got to be in the All-Star game as a starter. Anyway, Wells was traded to the Reds for C.J. Nitkowski, Mark Lewis, and a minor leaguer. So since they needed him for the pennant drive, which the Reds did, they won the NL Central in 1995, got to the NLCS, but were swept by the Braves. Wells was 6-5 with a 3.59 ERA. After the 95 season, the Reds didn't need him, so they traded him to Baltimore for Chris Goodwin and a minor leaguer. So David Wells felt unloved in a sense. He did well, throwing 224 innings in 96. However, he would be 11-14, and the Orioles just didn't think he was that good. So he was sent packing. He was a free agent, and the Yankees took a shine to him and said, you know what, we might need him. So he signed with the Yankees. However, because of a lifelong interest in Babe Ruth, he wanted to wear number 3, but was denied. Are you serious? He took double 3. That's 33 and all that. Wells was such a big fan of Mr. Babe Ruth that he took the mound June 1997 wearing an authentic 1934 Babe Ruth hat, which he bought for $35,000. Wells was forced to take it off because it didn't conform to uniform standards. He was fined $2,500. But Wells said he was happy to pay it and said it was a small price to pay for the thrill of wearing the hat on the field, even for 1 inning. The worst part was Wells didn't do so well as the Indians won that game. He was 16-10 in '97, which wasn't that bad. But then he did much better in 1998, winning 18 games and took third in Cy Young voting and won a World Series ring for the second and last time. David Wells, in May of 1998, would throw a perfect game, almost, about 24 years ago, where he blanked the Twins 4-0. Wells attended the same San Diego High School as Don Larson, who in fact threw a perfect game for the Yankees in the 1956 World Series and all that. So anyway, Larson was the only Yankee to throw a perfect game, but not anymore. David Wells did it on home turf against the Twins. Wells actually claimed that he threw the perfect game while having a raging hangover. The claim was actually backed up by Jimmy Fallon, reported with Wells the night before the game. Wells almost had a second perfect game September of 1998. He allowed no walks and only 2 hits, but the first hit was with 2 outs in the 7th as Jason Giambi took him for a base hit. So David Wells was a left-handed legend for the Yankees, and it looked good for him as a Yankee. However, shockingly enough, he was traded to the Blue Jays in spring training of 1999 in the trade that sent Roger Clemens to Pinstripe Land. So it was just shocking, all of that. So anyway, David Wells was shocked to go back to Toronto and all that. I mean, after all, the team dumped him off after the '92 World Series. So anyway, yeah, man, that was a weird trade. Wells for Clemens, starter for starter. Wells would actually do well in his 2 years with the Blue Jays, 17-10 in year 1 and 20-8 in 2000, becoming only the second Blue Jay to win 20 games in a season. The first was Jack Morris in '92. Wells was on the cover of Sports Illustrated just before the 2000 All-Star game. The cover article was The David Wells Diet, Chips, Beer, and American League Batters. However, Wells was upset. He liked being on the cover, but the story just focused on his diet and body instead of his accomplishments. So anyway, David Wells was then traded to Chicago for Mike Soroka because the Blue Jays needed a good left-hander. And shockingly, why would they trade David Wells? I think it was for salary reasons. Anyway, the primary player was Mike Soroka, who was injured at the time of the deal and never pitched the major leagues again. Gord Ash, who was Toronto's GM, did not make the deal contingent on a medical examination. Because of that, the MLB said that the trade had to go through. So Wells was a White Sox for 1 season, and the Blue Jays never got Soroka. They got Brian Simmons, but nothing else. Ash lost his job. Wells would have back problems, so the Blue Jays didn't really miss out on much. Wells was only 5-7 that year. So yeah, Mike Soroka was a good left-hander for the White Sox in their great 2000 campaign, which so the White Sox get swept by the pesky Seattle Mariners. So anyway, Wells went back to New York. He actually had an oral agreement to join Arizona, but he went back on his word and went with the Yankees. However, he was 19-7. So it was 1907, 2002. So he got his curveball and everything else. So the Yankees went out. Unfortunately, his autobiography, Perfect I'm Not, was published. Yankees management were pissed off, and Wells was fined $100K for disparaging comments. Of course, one of them was because he had the hangover when he pitched his perfect game. Among the other controversial statements was that he strengthened his pitching arm as a youth by throwing rocks at homeless people, and that his minor league team, the single A team in Kinston, had segregated stands in 1983, but there was evidence to the contrary. Penn State, North Carolina. So yeah, Wells was misquoted and basically thought that a ghostwriter penned it. But Wells did win 15 games and helped the Yankees win the pennant in 2003, getting to the World Series before the Marlins beat them in 6. Wells got his 200th win of his career on the final day of the 2003 season. Roger Clemens was allowed to manage the final game of the regular season. The Yankees usually did that. Let the players manage the last game. He was pitching during Game 5 of the 2003 World Series, but he had a bad backache. So unfortunately, the Yankees had to use their bullpen, which softened them, and the Marlins won Game 5 and won Game 6. So Wells I just can't believe he would do that. So anyway, he went to San Diego as a free agent. He pitched 1 year, being 12-8. That's not bad. But in 2005, he signed with the Boston Red Sox and got to wear number 3 because of his love for Babe Ruth. It was shocking to see a pitcher with a starting number single digits. So anyway, he decided to change the uniform from 3 to 16, and he was the same dominating pitcher. It was 15-7 with a 4.45 ERA. He wanted, after 2005, he wanted to go back to the West Coast, but he withdrew that request. Unfortunately, he would have troubles with injuries, and in August 2006, with the window closing for trades, he would be traded to San Diego for a top catching prospect. So anyway, the Padres were looking for the playoffs. Wells would file for free agency, but he decided to stay back with the Padres. Wells was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and this is basically lifestyle factors and all that. David Wells was cut from the Padres in 2007, in August of 2007. However, 2 weeks later, the Dodgers signed him. All that. The funny thing was that Wells was 4-1 the rest of the way. He got a multi-hit game against the Padres, his former team, and may have been the factor for the Padres' choke job and losing the NL West / wild card to the Rockies. Wells fires back, but Wells would retire. So Wells lives in San Diego with his wife and 2 sons. His mother was a huge Hell's Angel and all that. He would do some broadcasting stuff, but in the end, David Wells was decent. But in the end, his girth, his inconsistent play at times, his comments in his book, it just ruined him. But yeah, he threw a perfect game. And don't you forget it. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.